Have you ever answered a late-night call and realized your whole marriage was built on a lie? My name's Nolan Graves, 68, 42 years with the same woman. I thought loyalty meant something, quiet nights, a steady home, a wife who said she'd never leave my side. But at 11:04 p.m., my phone rang, and the world I knew snapped. The hotel manager whispered like he was afraid of his own words. "Sir, your wife checked in yesterday with another man." For a second, I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Then something inside me went cold, focused. I didn't break. I started planning. If you're still here, follow this story. Trust me, it gets darker and a hell of a lot deeper. Before that phone call, I thought my story was pretty simple. Name's Nolan Graves. I grew up broke, worked every lousy job I could find, and slowly turned it into a little empire. Nothing crazy, just a few rentals, a paid-off house in the suburbs of Atlanta, enough in the bank to sleep at night. The kind of life men my age call good enough. Mornings were quiet. Diane would hand me a mug of coffee, kiss my cheek, ask about the tenants. Evenings were louder, Lauren dropping the kids off, toys on the floor, cartoons in the background, Diane fussing over everyone like a classic grandma. It wasn't perfect. No marriage is. But I thought the cracks were normal. A snappy comment here, a cold shoulder there. You tell yourself, we're just getting older. You focus on the grandkids, the Sunday dinners, the birthdays. You tell yourself, this is what winning looks like at 68. Roof over your head, family around the table, no drama. But that call from the hotel didn't come out of nowhere. The truth? Looking back now, I should have seen the signs. Those signs didn't show up as fireworks. They came in quiet. It started with the phone. Diane used to answer calls right in front of me, speaker on, no big deal. Then one day I walked into the kitchen and she killed the call so fast you'd think it burned her hand. "Honey, who was that?" "Oh, just a wrong number." Sure, one wrong number, then another, then another. Next came the headaches. We'd have plans, dinner with friends, a movie, a drive up to the lake, and an hour before she'd sigh and say, "My head's pounding. You go without me, I'll just lie down." So I went. Sat at restaurants alone, making excuses for her. She's tired. She's not feeling well. I heard myself say it so many times it started sounding like a script. Some nights I'd look at her across the room and feel that little twist in my gut. Something's off. But then I'd shake it off. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe this is just what marriage looks like after 40 years. I know better now. Love makes you blind. Damn blind. So when that hotel manager hung up, the first thing I did was call Diane. Straight to voicemail. No ring, no delay, just her recorded voice, all sweet and soft. "Hey, it's Diane. Leave me a message." I didn't leave one. What do you even say to that? I tried Lauren next. No answer. Probably asleep, kids out cold, house dark. For a second I just stood there in my living room, phone in my hand, heart beating way too loud for a quiet house. Then I grabbed my keys and walked out. I didn't turn off a single light. It felt wrong to leave the house dark, like I was admitting something was over. Atlanta at night has this strange calm. Empty parking lots, storefronts glowing blue and white. I drove past places we'd eaten at, gas stations we'd stopped at on late drives home. Every red light felt like a full minute of punishment. 42 years replayed in my head. Our wedding, bringing Lauren home from the hospital, the Christmases, the fights, the makeups. And now this. My stomach kept asking, what if it's true? Something colder answered, I don't care. I have to know. The Grand Citadel wasn't some cheap motel off the highway. It was marble floors, big chandeliers, soft piano music leaking out of the bar, the kind of place people dress up for, or sneak away to. I walked through the spinning glass doors feeling like I was made of concrete. Behind the front desk stood a young guy in a gray suit, name tag reading Evan. He recognized me right away. That uneasy look gave him away before he even spoke. "Mr. Graves?" "Yeah." "I'm really sorry about all this, sir. Could you come with me?" The lobby smelled like polished wood and expensive soap. My chest felt like it was full of gravel. Evan led me past the smiling concierge, past couples checking in, laughing like the world was fine. Through a side door, the hotel turned narrow and quiet. Beige walls, buzzing overhead lights, our footsteps heavy on the tile. He stopped at a door marked security and knocked. Inside, it was colder. A wall of screens showing hallways, elevators, parking lots. A big guard nodded at me, then at the chair in front of the monitors. I sat down. My hands were shaking, so I pressed them between my knees. The guard moved the mouse, typing, rewinding footage. "All right, sir," he said. "This is yesterday, 4:30 p.m. The screens flickered. The picture jumped back in time. In my head, one thought, here we go. The screen went from static hallways to the front entrance. Grainy, black and white, timestamp in the corner. There she was. Diane walked in like she'd done it 100 times. Hair down around her shoulders, the way she almost never wore it anymore. A dress I'd never seen before, hugging her a little tighter than her usual church outfits. Small rolling suitcase behind her. For a second my brain tried to protect me. Business conference, church retreat, some women's thing she forgot to mention. Then I saw him. Tall guy, white shirt, dark jeans, easy walk. Right beside her, not behind. No distance. No stranger gap. He moved like he belonged there. I stood up without realizing it, leaning so close my nose was almost on the glass. "Can you zoom?" I asked. The guard clicked a few times. The image tightened, got fuzzier, but the face came into focus. Short beard, slicked back hair, that little half smirk I'd seen across my dinner table 100 Sundays. Jason Cole, my son-in-law. The words just slipped out of me. "Hell no." Then louder, to nobody and everybody. "You've got to be kidding me." My wife, my daughter's husband, checking into a hotel together. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. Jason and Diane walked up to the front desk like a damn commercial for second chances. He stood close, too close, his hand resting on the small of her back like he'd practiced it. She tilted her head up at him, smiling in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in years. They laughed at something the clerk said. Diane pulled out her ID, slid it across the counter. Jason leaned in, said something in her ear. She touched his arm like it was the most natural thing in the world. The clerk handed over a key card. The guard squinted. "That's Suite 1213, he read off the screen. I felt my jaw clench. "Fast forward," I said. We watched them again at 7 p.m., sitting in the hotel restaurant. 2 glasses of red wine, her hand over his eyes locked on her like she was the only person in the room. They clinked glasses, laughing, flirting, stealing little touches that used to be mine. This wasn't some mistake in the dark, some one-time stupid decision. This was planned, comfortable, practiced. It hit me hard. This wasn't just cheating, it was a full-on betrayal. The worst part wasn't the wine, it wasn't the laughing, it was what came after. "Skip ahead," I said. Later that night. The guard scrubbed forward to just before 11 p.m. The lobby was quieter, a couple suitcases, a bored clerk, soft light. Then they appeared again. Diane and Jason dropped down onto one of those fancy lobby couches like they owned the place. No more flirting now. Different energy. Jason had a thick brown folder in his hands, the kind you see in lawyers' offices. He snapped it open. Papers. A stack of them. He spread them out on the coffee table. Diane leaned in, serious, reading line by line while he pointed, explaining things like some helpful son-in-law. No kisses, no touching, just business. Then he pulled a pen from his pocket, tapped a line, and handed it to her. She signed, once, twice, 3 times. I could hear my own breathing. "Follow them," I said. We watched them step into the elevator, Jason tucking the brown folder under his arm. "Freeze that," I told the guard. "Zoom the label." The picture got fuzzy, but the black letters were still there. Graves' estate transfer. My name, my life, in their hands. In that second, everything shifted. This wasn't just about sex or feelings or midlife whatever. They weren't just sneaking around behind my back, they were signing over my whole damn life like it was a used car title. Houses I'd bought one by one, rent checks I'd chased, repairs I'd done myself because I couldn't afford a contractor, every sacrifice I'd made so my family would never have to start where I started. spread out on a hotel coffee table between my wife and my son-in-law. I straightened up. "Evan," I said to the manager, "I need copies of every second they show up on these cameras. Every angle, lobby, elevators, hallways. Put it all on a USB." "Of course, sir." "And tell me something. Are they still here?" He checked the computer, swallowed. "Yes, sir. Suite 1213 is still occupied. Paid through tomorrow at noon." I nodded slowly. "All right. Don't call them. Don't warn them. Pretend nothing happened. You never met me tonight." On the way out, the lobby looked different. Same lights, same flowers, same polished floor. But I wasn't the same man who walked in. The hurt was still there, sure, but under it, something colder settled in. You picked the wrong old man. By the time the sun came up, I'd had maybe 20 minutes of real sleep. Didn't matter. At 9 sharp, I was sitting in Alan Brooks's office like I'd been dropped there. Alan had been my lawyer for 30 years. Wills, leases, little disputes with tenants, nothing like this. He was one of the few men I still trusted. I put the USB on his desk. "Alan, watch this." He plugged it in, leaned back, and stared at the screen. I watched him instead. First, confusion. Then his jaw tightened, his eyes narrowed. He took his glasses off, put them back on. When the frame with the brown folder and the words Graves Estate Transfer came up, he froze it himself and leaned in. "Jesus, Nolan," he whispered. "This is betrayal at every level." He turned to say he was sorry, but I cut him off. "Don't be sorry," I said. "Be sharp. Tell me how bad it is." He sighed, opened a drawer, grabbed a folder of his own. "It's bad," he said quietly. "There's a forged power of attorney in your name, filed 3 weeks ago." That's when I realized the hotel wasn't the start. It was the middle of something much uglier. Alan laid out the papers like he was dealing cards in a game I'd never agreed to play. 3 weeks ago," he said, tapping a printout, "Diane submitted this power of attorney. Says you gave her full control over your assets. Signature looks like yours at a glance. But it's not. I've got your real one on file. My own name, in someone else's handwriting." He flipped to another document. Using that, she started transferring assets. The duplex downtown, already in process of moving into an LLC controlled by Jason. The beach place in Florida, same story. I just stared at the pages. I remembered laying tile in that duplex myself because I couldn't afford to hire it out. I remembered fixing pipes at midnight when a tenant called crying. I remembered standing on the porch of that beach house the day we closed and Diane saying, "You did it, Nolan. You really did it." Now I was looking at proof they were quietly erasing me from it all. "If we don't stop this fast," Alan said, "in a few days, legally, those places won't be yours anymore." I clenched my fists so hard my knuckles hurt. "Everything I built," I said slowly, feeling it burn in my chest. "They tried to steal. I thought we were done, thought the worst of it was on the table." Alan sighed and pulled out one more sheet. "There's something else," he said. "I was hoping I was wrong, but..." He slid it toward me. Letterhead from Riverstone Senior Living. I'd seen their commercials. Smiling old folks playing cards. Soft piano. Looked nice on TV. "This is an intake inquiry," Alan said, "from Diane. About you." My name was all over it. I started reading. Episodes of confusion, getting lost while driving, forgetting basic tasks, potential danger to himself if left unsupervised. I shoved the paper back at him. "That's a damn lie. I run my business every day. I drive, I pay my bills. I remember more than half the people my age." "I know," Alan said. "But if a court believes this, if she piles on a couple of incidents, a sympathetic doctor, some fake concern, she could get you declared incompetent. Then she and Jason control everything, where you live, what gets sold, what treatment you need." It hit me harder than the hotel footage. They weren't just after my houses or my bank accounts. They weren't just trying to steal my money. They were trying to erase me. I sat there staring at that Riverstone letter, feeling something shift inside my chest. Fear was still there, sure, but it had company now. Anger, the useful kind. "All right," I said. "What do we do?" Alan flipped to a clean page in his legal pad. "We move fast and we move clean." He held up one finger. "First, We revoke that fake power of attorney today. I'll file it myself. Second finger. We freeze every property transfer in motion. County recorder, title companies, all of it. Nothing leaves your name without a fight. Third. You go see a top geriatric specialist. Full cognitive workup. We get it in writing that you're sharp as hell for your age. Fourth. You go home and live your normal life. But from now on, you watch. You listen. You collect everything. Texts, emails, bank statements. We build a case, brick by brick. I let out a long breath. So you're saying, I muttered, I have to go back in that house and pretend I don't know a damn thing. He nodded. For now. I looked him dead in the eye. I'll do it, I said. I'll be a spy in my own home. Because at the end of the day, a man's got to stand his ground. I'm not going down without a fight. 2 days later, I was sitting in a cold exam room at Midtown Medical, across from Dr. Benjamin Harris, geriatric specialist. Nice guy, late 50s, the kind of face that's seen a lot of scared old men. He didn't treat me like I was crazy. He treated me like a problem to solve. We did everything. Word lists, memory recall, number patterns, draw a clock, repeat stories back to him, walk in a straight line, touch my nose, solve little puzzles while he watched my eyes. He'd say, remember these 3 words, then come back 20 minutes later and ask for them again. He'd give me a list of numbers and say, now backwards. 4 hours of that. 4 hours felt like 4 days. When he was finally done, he sat down with a stack of charts. Mr. Graves, he said, almost smiling, you're in better cognitive shape than a lot of 50-year-olds I see. No dementia, no mild impairment, nothing. He printed the report, signed it, and handed it to me. Thick paper, official letterhead. My name, plus words like normal and above average. If they wanted to call me crazy, now I had proof I wasn't. Next stop was the bank. I'd been walking into that branch for 20 years, shook the same hands, signed the same forms, trusted the same people. This time, my stomach was tight. Mr. Callahan, the branch manager, met me in his little glass office. What can I do for you, Mr. Graves? I want a full printout of every transaction from all my accounts, I said, for the last 6 months. No summaries, line by line. He raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. A few minutes later, I had a thick stack of paper in front of me. I went through them slow. Rent deposits, utility payments, groceries, all normal. Then I saw them. $500 out, $800 out, $200 out, $10,000 out. Same pattern. Electronic transfers I didn't remember making, to account numbers I didn't recognize. Who owns these destination accounts? I asked. He typed, frowned, then looked up. All of them are under the name Jason Cole. My jaw tightened. Print me certified copies of every one of those, I said. Dates, times, authorizations, and starting today, we change every password, every access code. No one touches my money without me knowing. Jason hadn't just shown up to steal the table. He'd been snacking on my plate for months. When I pulled into the driveway that night, the house looked the same as always. Porch light on, curtains half drawn, safe. I walked in and smelled it before I saw her. Pot roast, my favorite. The kind of meal she made on birthdays and holidays. Diane was at the stove, humming to herself, apron on. She turned, smiled. Hey, honey, how was your day? Just like that. Like the bank, the doctor, the fake papers, the hotel. All of it was some movie I'd watched, not my life. I walked over, kissed her cheek. Busy, I said. Lot going on with the tenants. We set the table together. She talked about the weather, the price of groceries, some show she'd watched. I nodded in the right places, cut my meat, chewed, swallowed. On the outside, I was the same old husband. Same chair, same plate, same woman across from me. Inside, it felt like I was sitting across from a stranger who happened to know my Wi-Fi password. I looked at her hands as she reached for the salt. Hands I'd held for 42 years. All I could think was, I was having dinner with the woman planning to erase me. So I made a choice. Not tonight. No explosions. No accusations. Tonight, I'd just watch. After dinner, Diane started the dishes. I told her I was tired, going to lie down for a bit. Upstairs, I closed the bedroom door and locked it. sat on the edge of the bed for a minute, just listening to the muffled clatter of plates downstairs. Then I picked up my phone and called Lauren. She answered on the second ring. "Hey, Dad? Everything okay?" My voice sounded strange, even to me. "Yeah, just quick question, sweetheart. Your mom's been helping with the kids a lot lately, right? Watching them overnight?" There was a pause. "Dad, what are you talking about? The kids have been at summer camp for almost 2 weeks. Mom hasn't watched them at all." I stared at the wall. "You're sure?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Positive. Did she say she was with them?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "Yeah, she did." Lauren's voice tightened. "Dad, what's going on?" "Nothing you need to worry about tonight," I lied. "Get some rest, okay? I love you." "I love you too." I hung up and opened the Notes app on my phone. I started typing. Date, time, exact words, every lie. Because there was something about that one that cut deeper than the rest. She hadn't just lied to me. She used our grandkids as an alibi. Going back downstairs felt like walking onto a stage. Diane was on the couch, TV on some crime show we'd seen 100 times. When I sat down, she scooted closer like always, tucked herself under my arm, laid her hand on my chest. "You okay?" she asked. "You seem quiet tonight." "Just tired," I said. "Long day." She laughed at something on the screen. Every now and then she'd look up at me and smile, like we were still us. I nodded, made the right noises, but inside, I was somewhere else. Don't blow up. Not yet. I started watching things I'd never paid attention to before. Where she put her purse, where she left her phone when she used the bathroom, what time she went upstairs, how long she stayed on calls after I said goodnight. She went up around 10:30. I followed a little later. She was already in bed, scrolling her phone, screen lighting up her face. When I walked in, she locked it and set it on the nightstand, face down. We lay there in the dark, inches apart, same bed we'd shared for decades. She fell asleep in 10 minutes. I didn't sleep at all. I was sleeping next to my enemy, and she had no idea. It happened 2 mornings later. Diane was rushing around the kitchen, keys in one hand, lipstick in the other. "I'm running late," she said. "Gotta meet the girls for brunch. You need anything?" "I'm good," I replied. "Drive safe." She kissed my cheek, grabbed her purse, and hurried out the door. A minute later, the door opened again. "Forgot my sunglasses," she called, laughing, then left for real. The house went quiet. I walked to the dining table. Her purse was still there. She'd taken the sunglasses. She'd taken the keys. She'd left the phone. My heart kicked up. My hands didn't shake this time. I opened the purse, found the phone, hit the power button. Lock screen. 4-digit code. First guess, our wedding anniversary. Wrong. Second, her birthday. Wrong. I stared at the screen, thought about who mattered most to her now. Not me. Not really. I typed in Lauren's birthday. The screen unlocked. No fanfare. No sound. Just her whole secret life opening in my hand. Messages, photos, apps. All of it just sitting there, waiting. I let out a slow breath I didn't know I was holding. I was in. First place I went on her phone was messages. There it was. Jason Cole with a little heart next to his name. I opened the thread and scrolled up. At the top, it looked like every cliche you've ever heard. "I miss you. Wish I was in your bed instead of his. Can't wait to see you again." Selfies. Him in his truck. Her in a bathroom mirror. Hair done. Lips done. Wearing clothes I'd never seen on her. Then the tone changed. Jason. "Notary's set. He's a friend of Trevor's. Doesn't ask questions." Diane. "You're sure the papers are solid?" Jason. "Trevor triple-checked everything. They're perfect. Once it's filed, Nolan will never know." More scrolling. Jason. "Practice the signature. It has to pass a quick glance." Diane. "My hand hurts from writing his name over and over." Then Riverstone. Diane. "They have a room open. $45K a year. They think he's getting worse." Jason. "Good. Once he's in there, we'll have full control. Just a few more weeks." And then the one line that burned itself into my brain. "He's had his life. Now it's our turn." That was my son-in-law. talking about me like I was already dead. The texts were bad. The emails were worse. From her phone, I opened her mail, searched one name, Trevor. Dozens of threads popped up, subject lines that made my skin crawl: POA draft, deed transfer, final version, Riverstone packet. I opened one at random. There he was, Trevor Hayes, some slick attorney Jason had recommended months back, talking to my wife like they were running a business deal, not dismantling a life. Attachments everywhere, PDFs, scans, forms. I didn't read every word right then. I didn't have to. I downloaded them all, forwarded them to my own email, then to a fresh one Alan had set up. After that, I uploaded everything to the cloud and later dumped it all on a separate USB. If my house burned down that night, I wasn't losing this. When I was done, I went to the closet and pulled out an old shoebox. Inside was a spiral notebook Diane used to keep grocery lists and notes in. Her real handwriting, her real signature. I put one of Trevor's documents next to her old birthday note. Same name, same letters. But there were tiny differences, hesitations, off angles. Somebody had spent time learning how to fake us. They didn't just cheat on me, they studied us. The next time I sat in Alan's office, I didn't come with just a USB. I came with a folder thick enough to hurt your hand. Screenshots of texts, printed emails from Trevor, bank transactions to Jason, photos of that brown folder from the hotel. I laid it all out on his desk. Alan went through it piece by piece. His face got darker with every page. "All right," he said finally. "This is bigger than my wife cheated. We're past family drama. This is organized fraud." He picked up his phone. "I'm calling someone I use when things get ugly." That's how Detective Morgan Tate, private investigator, entered my life. Ex-cop, quiet, no small talk. He took copies of everything, asked a few sharp questions, then disappeared for a week. When he came back, he didn't waste time. "Jason's broke," he said. "Maxed cards, failed investments, behind on everything. Owes serious money to guys who don't send friendly reminders." "And Trevor?" Alan asked. "Suspended twice from the bar. History of forged documents. He shouldn't be touching paperwork at all." Alan leaned back. "We're not just dealing with cheaters, Nolan," he said. "We're dealing with predators. And predators don't stop at one kill." A few days later, Diane came downstairs in a black dress I didn't recognize. "I'm going out with the girls," she said, grabbing her keys. "Dinner, maybe a movie. Don't wait up." Old me would have said, "Have fun," and left it at that. This version of me just smiled. "All right, enjoy yourself." I watched her car back out of the driveway and disappear down the street. Then I waited. 10 minutes, 15, 30, long enough that she'd never think twice about me. Then I grabbed my keys and followed. I stayed a few cars back, far enough not to be obvious. She didn't go anywhere near the restaurant she mentioned. Instead, she headed downtown, into the business district, where people wore suits and trouble looked expensive. She pulled into a lot next to a glass office building, parked, went inside. I found a spot across the street and waited. 20 minutes later, a familiar truck pulled in. Jason. 5 minutes after him, a silver sedan. Trevor. They didn't arrive together, but they sure as hell went in together. I took pictures, license plates, time stamps, building signs. Sitting there in the dark, camera in my hand, it hit me. There it was, the triangle that was trying to erase me. The call came the next morning just after 9. "Mr. Graves, this is Evan from the Grand Citadel." My stomach tightened. "Yeah, I remember you." He cleared his throat. "Sir, I thought you'd want to know. That man from the footage, Jason, he was here again early this morning. He left something in the lobby, a brown folder. I recognized it from the video. He hasn't come back for it." For a second, I just stared at the wall. "I'm on my way," I said. When I walked into his office, it was sitting right there on the desk. Same thick brown folder I'd watched on the security screen. Same white label. Same cheap little clasp. Up close, it felt heavier than it should have. I opened it. My name was everywhere. Power of attorney documents, deed transfer forms, bank authorizations, a completed intake request for Riverstone Senior Living. Some stamped, some ready to file, all of them with my signature. Only it wasn't my hand that wrote it. "Nolan," Evan said quietly, "should I even be seeing this?" "No," I said. "And you won't. after today. I closed the folder, holding it like evidence bagged at a crime scene. This wasn't just another clue. This folder was the smoking gun. Alan didn't waste time once he saw that folder. "We're done playing defense," he said. "It's time to put this in the state's lap." He set up a meeting with Assistant District Attorney Rebecca Shaw downtown. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, no fluff. The kind of woman who's seen every excuse and stopped believing half of them. We sat across from her in a cramped conference room as Alan laid everything out. Hotel footage of Diane and Jason, screenshots of the texts, printed emails from Trevor, bank records to Jason's accounts, Dr. Harris's report that my mind was fine, and finally the brown folder, pushed across the table like a loaded gun. Rebecca went through it quietly, pen tapping, lips tightening a little more with each page. When she finished, she looked up. "Mr. Graves, this isn't just ugly family business. This is fraud, forgery, conspiracy to commit theft, and because of your age, elder abuse." The words hung in the air. She continued, "With this much paper, I can move fast. If we file today, I can likely have arrest warrants for Jason and Trevor within 48 hours. She paused. "Is that what you want?" I didn't hesitate. "I want to proceed," I said. No mercy. While the lawyers and paperwork were moving behind the scenes, my life on the surface had to look normal. That Sunday, Diane walked into the bedroom, already dressed for church. Light blue dress, little necklace I'd bought her on our 20th anniversary. "Come on," she said, smiling. "We haven't been in a while. It'll be good for us." Good for us. I almost laughed. We sat in our usual pew, same wooden bench we'd shared for decades. The pastor preached about forgiveness, second chances, how no one is too far gone to be redeemed. People nodded, wiped tears. Diane bowed her head, hands folded like she was the picture of faith. I sat there staring at the cross, thinking about forged signatures and hotel rooms. When it was time for communion, she went up. I stayed seated. My legs wouldn't move. After the service, she slipped her arm through mine. "Let's go try that new place downtown," she said. "Just you and me." We sat by the window, sunlight on the table, plates between us. Halfway through her salad, she reached for my hand. "Everything I do," she said softly, "I do for us." And all I could think was, she said she did it for us, while she was stealing my whole life. Monday morning didn't feel like any special day. Coffee, quiet house, Diane in the kitchen, scrolling her phone like it was any other start to any other week. Around 10, my phone buzzed. Alan. "They've executed the warrants," he said. "Jason was picked up at his office, Trevor at his house. ADA Shaw also sent a team to your place. 2 officers will brief Diane and serve her papers. You don't have to be there if you don't want to." "I'll be here," I said. "I want to see it." I hung up and waited. A little before 11, there was a firm knock at the front door. Diane wiped her hands on a dish towel. "I'll get it," she called, walking over like it might be a neighbor or a package. I stepped into the hallway behind her. 2 officers stood there. 1 man, 1 woman. Calm, professional. "Good morning, ma'am," the male officer said. "We're looking for Diane Graves." Her voice wavered. "That's me. Is something wrong?" "Yes, ma'am," the woman replied. "We need to inform you that you're under investigation in connection with an ongoing case involving fraud, forgery, and conspiracy." Diane turned to me, eyes wide, face draining. "Nolan, what is this?" I met her stare. "I know everything," I said. "The hotel, Jason, Trevor, Riverstone, all of it." News travels fast in a family, even when you don't want it to. While the officers were still talking to Diane in the living room, my phone started buzzing. Lauren. I let it go once, twice. 3rd time I picked up. "Dad, why are there police at Jason's office? They just called me. What is going on?" "Come to the house," I said. "Right now." 20 minutes later, the front door flew open. Lauren walked in, hair a mess, eyes already wet. She saw the uniforms, saw her mother on the couch, shaking, cheeks streaked with tears, saw me standing there, calm in a way that scared even me. "Somebody explain," she said, voice breaking. "Right now." I didn't sugarcoat it. We went to my study. I showed her the hotel footage first. Diane and Jason walking in together, holding hands, laughing. Then the lobby couch, the folder, the signatures, then the texts, the emails, the Riverstone forms. She went from confused to pale to something I'd never seen on my daughter's face before, pure disgust. She turned on Diane. "You disgust me," she whispered, then louder, voice cracking. "Both of you, how could you?" Diane reached for her. Lauren recoiled like she'd touched a hot stove. Lauren collapsed into my chest, sobbing like a child. I held her and said the only honest thing left. "You can always trust me." Eventually the uniforms left. Papers were served, instructions given. Lauren, shaking, drove off to figure out her own shattered life. Even Alan excused himself, promising to call with updates. The house got quiet again. It was just me and Diane. She stood in the middle of the living room, clutching that dish towel like it could save her. For the first time in a long time, she looked small. "Nolan," she said, stepping toward me, "please, just give me another chance. We can fix this. I made a mistake." I laughed, just once. No humor in it. "A mistake is burning dinner," I said. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary." I took a step closer. "You didn't just sleep with our daughter's husband. You didn't just lie about headaches and grandkids. You forged my name. You tried to move my houses. You drained my accounts. You sat with another man planning which nursing home to dump me in so you could live off what I worked for." Her lips trembled. I was scared. Jason said, "No," I cut in. "Own it. You didn't make a mistake. You made choices. Over and over again." I pointed toward the stairs. "Pack your things," I said. "You're leaving this house today." She stared at me, stunned. "I'm not your husband anymore," I added. "I'm the man you tried to erase, and I'm sorry." I felt the words burn as they came out. "I'm sorry I wasted 42 years on you." I heard the suitcase before I saw it. Wheels on the stairs, zippers, drawers closing. The kind of sounds you never think you'll hear in your own house after 42 years. Diane came down with one big suitcase and a smaller bag. She didn't look at me on her way to the door, or maybe I just stopped looking at her. The door opened, the suitcase bumped over the threshold, and then there was the sound of her car starting. Engine, reverse, gravel, then nothing. The silence that came after was different. Not peaceful, but clean. I walked through the house like I was seeing it for the first time. Living room. Couch where we watched shows and pretended to be okay. Kitchen where she poured my coffee, planning my funeral in her head. Our bedroom. Bed made too neatly. In the hallway I stopped at the mantle. Wedding photo. Lauren in pigtails. Christmases. Birthdays. A wall of smiles from a life that now felt edited. I went to the kitchen, grabbed a bottle of whiskey, poured more than I should have into a glass, and drank it without ice. My phone buzzed. Lauren. "Dad, you want me to come over?" "Not tonight," I said. "I just need one night to sit with this." When I finally turned out the lights, the house felt different. For the first time in a long time, it felt honest. Empty, but honest. The next day, while I was nursing bad sleep and stale coffee, Alan called. "She just finished with ADA Shaw," he said. "You want the short version or the long one?" "Short," I answered. "I don't need the drama, just the truth." He took a breath. "She didn't fight it, Nolan. She confirmed everything. The affair with Jason, the forged documents, the transfers they tried to push through, the Riverstone plan, all of it." I felt my jaw tighten. "How long?" I asked. "How long has that been going on?" 2 years, he said quietly. "She told them it started when you were in the hospital for your heart surgery. Said she felt alone. Jason stepped in. One thing led to another. You know the script." I didn't say anything. Alan went on. "Because she's cooperating, Rebecca's talking plea deal. Diane gives them every detail on Jason and Trevor, dates, meetings, bank routes, the works. In return, they consider probation instead of prison time for her. Nothing's final yet, but that's the direction." I leaned back, staring at a crack in the ceiling I'd never noticed. 2 years. 2 years of Sunday dinners. 2 years of love you, honey. 2 years of her kissing me goodnight and texting him after I fell asleep. For 2 years, I said slowly, more to myself than to Alan, I was living with a ghost. A few days later, Alan and I sat across from 80 Rebecca Shaw again. The brown folder was still in her file stack, now tagged and labeled like any other piece of evidence. She got straight to it. Because your wife is cooperating fully, she said, we're prepared to offer her a deal. Suspended sentence, formal criminal record, probation, mandatory restitution where possible, in exchange for detailed testimony against Jason Cole and Trevor Hayes. I looked at Alan. Meaning what? Meaning, he said, her testimony makes it almost impossible for those two to slip out of this. She was in the room. She saw the planning. With her on the record, they're dead in the water. And if I say no? I asked. Rebecca shrugged slightly. We can still move forward, but without her inside account, their lawyers have more room to work. Less clean. Less certain. So there it was. Did I want my wife in handcuffs? Or did I want the two men who designed this whole thing buried under charges they couldn't escape? I thought about it. About justice. About anger. About the rest of my life. I'll agree, I said finally. But only if she signs the divorce, gives up any claim to my assets, and there's a permanent no-contact order. I paused. I didn't forgive her, I added. I just chose my battles. The actual divorce didn't look like the movies. No shouting match in a courtroom, no slammed fists, just a quiet conference room, papers on a table, a pen being slid back and forth. Diane sat at one end, her lawyer next to her. I sat at the other with Alan. She looked older than I remembered, or maybe I was just seeing her without the story I'd wrapped around her for 4 decades. The agreement was simple, on purpose. She signed away any claim to my properties, no stake in the rentals, no piece of the house, no right to my retirement. In return, I wouldn't chase her for money she didn't have or push for prison time beyond what the state decided. She signed. I signed. Just like that, 42 years became ink on paper. Around the same time, Lauren filed her own set of papers, divorce from Jason, petition for full custody, restraining orders, a whole separate legal war. Whatever you need, I told her. Lawyers, money, help with the kids. You're not going through this alone, and that's how our family shrank and shifted. We lost a husband and a wife. But sitting at my kitchen table with my daughter and grandkids a few weeks later, I realized something. We lost 2 people. But maybe we finally found ourselves. The courthouse had that stale, recycled air that smells like paper and old decisions. Alan and I took our seats on one of the hard wooden benches near the front. The room buzzed low, lawyers whispering, pens clicking, shoes scuffing. Then the side door opened. Jason walked in first, hands cuffed in front of him, orange jumpsuit hanging off him like it belonged to someone bigger. No gel in his hair, no easy smile, just a hollow, tired face and dark circles under his eyes. Behind him, Trevor. Same orange, but his posture was different. Back straight, chin up, like this was some kind of inconvenience, not the end of his run. They didn't look at me. Not at first. The judge came in, everyone stood, sat, the ritual taking over. She read out the list. Fraud, forgery, conspiracy, elder exploitation. Each charge sounded heavier in that room than it did on paper. Their lawyers stood and said the words I knew were coming. Not guilty, Your Honor. There was some back and forth about bail, flight risk, severity, pattern of behavior. In the end, the judge didn't hesitate. Remanded, she said. No bond. As the deputies moved to take them back, Jason finally looked up. Our eyes met for a second. I held his gaze. He dropped his. The day of the real trial, the room felt smaller. I watched other people take the stand first. Bank reps, forensic document guys, detectives. Then the clerk called my name. Mr. Nolan Graves. I walked up, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth, sat down. The microphone was too close. I pushed it back a little. The prosecutor started at the beginning. Mr. Graves, how did you first learn something was wrong? The phone call from the hotel manager, I said, a little after 11 at night. We walked through it all, the footage, the brown folder, the fake power of attorney, the bank transfers, Riverstone. My voice stayed steady. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just laid the pieces down in order like I was lining up tools in my garage. Then Jason's lawyer got his turn. "Mr. Graves," he said, "you're 68, correct? Is it possible you're mistaken about some of these details? Memories from months ago, late-night calls, timelines. Things can get fuzzy at your age, can't they?" I let the silence sit for a moment. "No," I said. "They can't. Not for me." I leaned in just enough. "I know exactly what they did to me. I know who was in that hotel. I know whose name was on those transfers. And I know the difference between being old and being fooled." The jury watched me. I made sure they saw a lot of things in my face, but not confusion. After I stepped down from the stand, I sat back and watched other people take my place. First was a man named Carl, 72, wore his only good suit, too big in the shoulders. He gripped the edge of the witness stand like it was the only solid thing in his life. He told the jury how Jason had helped him refinance, how the paperwork was just temporary, how one day he got a letter saying the house he'd lived in for 40 years was no longer legally his. Then a woman, 68, soft voice, hands shaking. She'd saved for decades for her grandkids' college funds. Jason and Trevor convinced her to protect the money in a special account. It disappeared. So did they. Then an older couple, late 70s. They caught the scam at the last second, one signature away from losing every cent. Different faces, same pattern. They all looked a little like me, tired, proud, embarrassed they'd been fooled. Sitting there, I realized something that hit harder than I expected. I wasn't special. I wasn't the only target. I was one of many. And that's when the anger changed shape. It stopped being just about my marriage or my bank account. I thought, if I didn't fight, they would just keep doing this to people who can't fight back. That, more than revenge, kept me in that courtroom. Verdicts come before lunch in our county. We all filed back in. Jury, lawyers, me, Lauren. Jason and Trevor came in from the side. Same orange jumpsuits, same chains, a little more worn around the edges. The judge asked the foreman for the verdicts. On every count, fraud, forgery, conspiracy, elder exploitation, the answer was the same. Guilty. No one shouted. No one cheered. The room just tightened. Then came sentencing. For Jason, she took a long breath. 14 years in state prison, she said. No possibility of parole for the first 7. Restitution ordered to the fullest extent possible. He stared at the table. For Trevor, her tone got even flatter. 19 years in state prison. No possibility of parole for the first 10. Permanent disbarment. You will never practice law again. He blinked once. That was it. She wasn't done. Both defendants are hereby ordered to have no contact, direct or indirect, with Mr. Nolan Graves, Ms. Lauren Cole, or any of the other identified victims and their families. Ever. Any violation will result in additional charges. Then she lifted the gavel. For the record, she said, this court believes your actions were deliberate, cruel, and predatory. This sentence reflects that. The gavel hit wood. In that moment, the whole room finally exhaled. Justice doesn't fix everything. It doesn't give you back your years. But hearing that sound, it felt like a door closing behind a monster. When court let out, the heat hit me first, then the noise. A wall of microphones and phones and faces I'd never seen closed in on us at the bottom of the courthouse steps. Mr. Graves, how do you feel about the verdict? Do you think the sentence was enough? Any message for your ex-wife? For your son-in-law? For a second, I wanted to keep walking, just disappear into my truck and drive home. But then I thought about Carl losing his house, that grandma losing the college fund, Lauren standing there, watching her life get ripped apart. So I stopped. Justice was served, I said, but the scars stay. They leaned in. I want to say something to folks my age, I added. If you're listening to this and something in your gut feels wrong, money missing, papers you don't understand, someone rushing you to sign, don't stay quiet. Call your bank, call a lawyer, call your kids, hell, call the police. Don't be ashamed. The only people who should be ashamed are the ones doing this to you. Someone shouted, "What about Diane?" I looked past the cameras for a second. I hope she finds peace, I said. I really do. but there's no place for her in my life anymore. I'll say this to you the same way I said it there. If you're listening to this and you feel something is wrong, speak up. Life doesn't snap back after something like that. It creaks. Weeks turned into months. The legal letters slowed down. The calls from Alan got shorter. Jason and Trevor became inmate numbers instead of names I had to hear every day. Lauren found a small rental 10 minutes from my house. Too big for just her and the kids, too small for what she'd planned her life to be. We made it work. Most nights now, my house isn't quiet. There are crayons on the coffee table, half-finished puzzles on the floor. My fridge is full of juice boxes and string cheese instead of just leftovers and cheap beer. We bake cookies on Fridays, burn at least one tray every time. We watch cartoons I pretend to hate. I stand on the sidelines at my grandson's Little League games yelling too loud. I drive my granddaughter to school and listen to her explain the whole world from the back seat. Sometimes, sitting in my chair, I still look over at the empty spot on the couch where Diane used to sit. There's a sting there that doesn't fully go away. But then I hear, "Grandpa, look," and a little hand grabs mine, and it hits me. My family got smaller, but it got real. When that hotel manager called me at 11 p.m. and said my wife had checked in with another man, I thought the worst thing I was facing was a broken heart. I was wrong. In the end, I was betrayed by my wife, my son-in-law, and a lawyer who treated my life like paperwork. I almost lost my house, my income, and my freedom, all while people told me to calm down and not overthink it. Here's what I know now. There are 3 things a man can't let anyone steal from him: his dignity, his name, and his right to decide his own life. They went after all 3. They used the things every man wants: safety, love, being respected, as weapons. I'm doing this for us. Trust me. Sign here. That's how predators work. They don't always kick your door in. Sometimes they kiss you goodnight. So if you're a man listening to this, pay attention to your money, to the papers you sign, to the knot in your stomach. Don't be scared to ask questions. Don't be scared to stand up, even if you stand alone at first. They tried to erase me. But in the end, I wrote the last chapter. Now it's your turn. If you've ever seen yourself or someone you love in a story like this, drop a comment saying, "I won't be fooled." And tell me this: which side are you on? A, standing against elder abuse, or B, staying silent and letting it happen? Make your choice. I'm reading every comment.